everybody, it's Becky. Welcome to my channel if you are new, and if you are already a subscriber of mine, thanks for coming back to visit me. Today I'm going to be talking about cell phone safety, technology safety, kind of how we keep our kids as safe as possible when online and using cell phones. I actually did a call for questions on my Instagram and on my YouTube community tab to ask you guys what your questions were about social media, technology, cell phones, and all that stuff. So today I'm going to be answering all of those questions that you guys sent in. If you guys don't know already, I have a 16-year-old daughter and a 10-year-old daughter, and so I have a lot of thoughts on cell phones, technology, social media, and all that stuff. In today's video, I have actually teamed up with Trend Micro. I've worked with them before. They have a home network security device and some new apps that help to keep your kids as safe as possible when using any type of technology, whether that be cell phones or gaming consoles or the internet. They have some really great products to help you kind of keep an eye on what's going on with your kids and what is coming in your house that your kids are possibly being exposed to. You guys did have quite a few questions, really great ones. And I feel like even though my approach to cell phones and technology and internet safety and all that is pretty unconventional, I definitely wanted to share kind of my thoughts on it and answer your questions. Okay, so the first question comes from Homeschool Mom of Two. She said, my boys are in middle school and don't have phones, but get to use mine to text and call, so I see all the activity. If they can handle that, then that's a start to having maturity toward having a phone. What are your rules and ages for getting a phone? Also, if they break the rules, what are the consequences? If you don't know already, both of my girls are homeschooled, so I don't have to send them to public school. But I guess as far as the age question, if the girls were in public school, they would both have a phone pretty much no matter how old they were. Now, whether it was going to be a smartphone, probably not, especially if they were really young. A flip phone, you know, a prepaid phone type of situation would definitely be something we would utilize, but they would both have some way to communicate with me or their dad if they were in public school, no matter what age they were. We did decide to give our oldest a cell phone when she was old enough that we were leaving her places where we weren't. So if we were dropping her off at church or somewhere like that, we did get her a phone. Actually, it was my old phone or my husband's, I can't remember. We did give her a phone when we started dropping her off, and that was about 12. So here she is 4 years later. She still has a phone. Doesn't need it terribly often because usually wherever she is, I'm kind of around. If it's like homeschool co-op or if it's at church, you know, I'm usually kind of in the building. So technically she really doesn't even need it that often in those situations anymore, but that was really when we decided to go ahead and get her a phone. That way, if she had an emergency, she could reach one of us. So consequences for misusing a phone or technology of any kind really is hard for me to say because she doesn't have access to her phone really that often anyway. Back when she did have a little bit more freedom with her phone, that was always the first thing to go. If she broke a rule, the phone was gone. Because, like I said, especially given the fact that most of the time she doesn't even need one. So having a phone is really a privilege. It's not a right. And that seemed to be the punishment that hurt the most, was taking away her phone, because that meant she couldn't text her friends. I found back when she had a little bit more access to her phone, we were having unnecessary arguments. And I told her multiple times, I'm not going to argue with you over something as stupid as a phone. It is a phone. You don't even need it half the time, and it's not something that you need. I mean, you don't need a smartphone, certainly. We can get you a flip phone or something that, you know, to remove any of the issues we were having, but we just kept having the same argument. So it was just easiest to take the phone, and if she's not away from me, then she doesn't have her phone unless she comes to me and asks for permission. So as harsh as that sounds, it was the easiest way to nip all of these arguments in the bud before they got any worse. And it was the easiest way to keep a better control on her screen time and what she was doing on her phone. If she doesn't have it, I don't have to worry about what she's doing on it or who's texting her, you know, if she's doing that instead of doing school, like whatever. I don't have to worry about that because I know where it is all the time now. So that really has helped a lot, just to, you know, you're not away from the house and you don't ask for permission, then you don't have your phone. And that's what I tell her. I'm like, I'm not punishing you now for something that happened, you know, 6 months to a year ago with you being on your phone too much. I'm just eliminating any future arguments. It's just solving problems that haven't happened yet. I know that sounds really harsh, but like I said, it's just, there are way more important things to argue about in life and to, you know, stress out about with your kids in life than a cell phone that she doesn't need. Now, if she was in public school and she did have to have it when she was away from me at school, the same rules would apply when she got home. The cell phone gets turned off and put in my room, and you're not to have it unless you ask for permission. So even though we do homeschool and our situation's a little bit different, if she were in public school, we would still have the same rules once she got home. But the next two questions were kind of similar, so I'm gonna answer them both together. Dawn Ashley asked, what sites do you recommend to see if an app is suitable, and do your kiddos have social media? What age is appropriate? And the next question is from Essentially Blessed Oils for You. She wants to know the best internet filter. So I don't have a website to check if an app is acceptable. I really haven't looked into that. There probably is one, but even that I wouldn't trust 100%. I mean, what's acceptable to one person is not necessarily acceptable to someone else. But there probably are things out there that tell you those types of things. I just don't know of any. But that is one way that the Trend Micro Home Network Security System comes in handy. And I talked about this in a previous video. It actually connects to your current internet router, and it basically works to block any inappropriate content before it even gets in your house. And it's looking for any malicious information or signals coming into your house. So hackers, viruses, inappropriate content, any of those things that you don't want your kids coming in contact with, it is blocking those things before they even get into your house. One thing I really like the most about the Trend Micro Home Network Security System is it works on everything that's connected to your internet. So your desktop, your tablets, your laptops, your gaming consoles, your cell phones, anything that is connected to your internet router is getting protected with the Trend Micro Home Network Security System. With the Trend Micro Home Network Security System, you can also set time limits and control social media. And I think the time limits is especially important on cell phones and even the gaming consoles, because your kids can rack up hours and hours and hours of gameplay before they even realize they've been on there that long. So it's really nice to really keep control of how long your kids are using these devices, what social media apps they have, and what they're seeing whenever they get online or on their phone. They also have 2 apps that are going to help to keep your kids safe. It does all of the things that the Trend Micro Home Network Security System already does. It also can help you locate missing devices. So if your kids or you lose your phone, you can find it more easily with the mobile security app. It also monitors data usage and incoming text, so you can see who is texting your kids and what they're talking about. And it has a Wi-Fi checker to scan for any malicious attempts at getting into your Wi-Fi. Trend Micro also has an ID security app, which is going to come in really handy to protect your credit card information. If any of your personal information has reached the dark web, it can even help recommend safe passwords for you guys, which is really important because I'm so bad about this. Password is not a good password. Trend Micro offers so many convenient ways to really help you parent your kids when it comes to technology, social media, game time, screen time, the internet, all of those things that our kids have access to pretty much 24/7. They really help to give you that extra set of eyes to kind of keep track of what your kids are seeing, how much time they're spending online, who's texting them when they're home and when they're not. So Trend Micro offers a lot of help in that area, but nothing is going to replace your parental involvement. It's your responsibility as a parent, and even though it's annoying sometimes to have to keep track of their phone and what they're seeing and what they're doing online or on their gaming consoles or on their computers or tablets, it's not always fun to have to spend the time checking out and keeping track of those things, but it's definitely necessary. And giving your kid a cell phone or internet access or any tablet access without paying attention to what they're doing, following up and kind of keeping tabs on where they're going, what they're visiting, who's texting them, and using things like Trend Micro is really, really dangerous. So I have a link for Trend Micro in the description box. You guys head on over there, check out their website, and read a little bit more about how their products work and how they are going to help you to keep your kids as safe as possible when using cell phones and any type of technology. Okay, the next question from Emily Ryan says, how do you help your girls feel less left out since others their age have complete smartphone access? How would you address your girls if they ask you for that kind of access? What kinds of things keep them occupied besides screen time? Okay, so as far as the part about them not feeling left out, sometimes that is hard for them to understand. Not so much my youngest. I don't think she'd care less about having a phone. But especially when, you know, a couple years after my oldest got her phone, we really kind of butted heads about, you know, when she should have it, when she shouldn't. And I know that all of her friends had access, and it was a little hard for her. It may still be hard for her, but I feel like she's getting kind of more used to it. But I try to explain to them about many things. Being different is not always a bad thing. And I explain to them my reasonings, why we are doing the things that we're doing, why we take the precautions that we take, why we have the rules that we have. But at the end of the day, and I've talked about this in other parenting videos, I'm sorry if they're not happy about it, but if I know I'm doing the right thing or I think I'm doing the right thing for them, I really can't worry about any side effects it might have for them. And it's something as silly as a cell phone. I'm not worried about, the fact that they're different than everyone else. As for keeping them occupied, it's pretty easy now because they both have things that they like to do that they will bring with them when we go places. But when they were little, I always had something in my purse or the diaper bag that would keep them occupied. So a little book to look at or stickers. Stickers were always a big one. I mean, anywhere we went, if I had stickers, they would find a way to entertain themselves. A small, quiet toy. There are so many different things you can bring that will keep them entertained, but not having to be on a cell phone. Now, pretty much both girls will almost always bring their sketch pad and a couple pencils or some markers or something to draw at the restaurant or for waiting somewhere. They're always bringing their own thing. Like, I don't really have to think about it anymore, but it's just kind of funny what they bring. They know to bring things to entertain them because they know they're not going to be using a phone to keep them entertained. So they'll bring now whatever they want, but usually it is a sketchbook of some sort. And sometimes my youngest daughter will bring some little figurines or something in a backpack. But for the most part, they do that on their own now. I don't really have to worry about keeping them entertained. But I think it's really, really important. You see so many people out at restaurants and the kids are like watching a TV show or no one's talking because everyone's on their phone, or the kids got a show or a game really loud. And it really bothers me and it makes me sad. It makes me sad that, first of all, these people are out together and people aren't talking. And it makes me sad because I wonder, these kids that don't have to have these kids that don't have the opportunity to entertain themselves with anything besides a game or a phone or a video or whatever, what kind of adults are they going to be if they constantly have to be entertained by someone else? That doesn't teach the child to self-entertain. It doesn't teach them to be creative. It doesn't teach them to be involved in the conversation. It doesn't teach them listening skills. It doesn't teach them anything except, I don't want you to bug me or make noise, so I'm going to shove this phone in front of your face and hope you stay quiet. So that really bothers me, and I know it sounds kind of preachy, but it really, really concerns me because I see it every single day. I know you guys do too. And it has me really concerned for this next generation that they so young have started being on their phones, like from the very beginning, like babies, holding a phone right in front of their face, watching, a video or playing a game or whatever. And there's not anything wrong with games, but it's just, I think it's the constant need to be entertained by someone else or something else is really, really a dangerous habit to start with anybody, but especially little kids. Okay, Christine asks, what age do you think a cell phone is appropriate? I kind of mentioned this earlier. Honestly, I don't think anybody needs a cell phone except for safety reasons. So if your kids are being left somewhere, like a babysitter or a daycare maybe, or in public school, I would make sure my kids had some way to communicate with me. Other than that, I wouldn't. I would not give them any type of phone until they absolutely had to have one. Even then, we would have rules and kind of restrictions in place, kind of like we do now. And I'll talk about those a little bit later, but I definitely would not get them one any sooner than they absolutely needed one for safety reasons. We have a landline still. One of the reasons we have a landline is so the girls can talk on the phone without having to have a cell phone. I have it for other reasons too, but I always tell the girls, give our home number away. You can give your home number to your friends and say, hey, I don't have my phone most of the time. If you want to talk to me or tell me something or ask me something, you can call the house. Or they can FaceTime on the big computer in the office. Like, there's no reason to have a cell phone just so somebody can text you or call you when they can call you on the house phone. Lucy O says, I know you don't have toddlers, but wondering what you suggest for alternate entertainment. I kind of mentioned that earlier as far as what we used to bring for the girls. She's 5 months pregnant and has a 4-year-old going on a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old. I sometimes feel the only way to get things done is if I let them be on their tablets. I don't want to be a parent that uses devices to pacify my kids, but it's getting hard and I know I need to manage my time better. I'm just in a funk at the moment. Well, it sounds like you have your hands full, so I know it's really hard and it's really tempting to want to give them something like, here, go do this, go look at this tablet or go play this game. And every once in a while, I think that's okay. But maybe you can have certain things for them that they can only play with when you need to get other things done. So that's a special TV show, a special toy, a certain book. And if your kids are older, like my youngest, even to this day, still really likes to take baths. And she'll sit in the bathtub and has her little figurines and plays and stuff. Obviously, she can safely take a bath alone. So when your kids are old enough, that might be something they like doing. So just trying to find special things that they can do when you need that quiet time or you need them to stay kind of out of your way for a little while that makes that time special, and not feeling like they need to be on a tablet or a phone or something all the time. Christine asks, what do you think about TikTok and what do you think of the idea that they need to be familiar with various types of software to make it in many different career types? Well, first of all, we don't have TikTok and I personally hate it. My oldest daughter only has one social media app. I really hate to even call it that. I mean, it's an art app where people share their art. So technically, I guess it is social media. That's the only one she's got. She doesn't have TikTok, Snapchat, Twitter, Instagram, any of that stuff. Actually, her Instagram is managed through my account, and it's just for her art. I personally don't like TikTok. I think it's encouraging kids to be on their cell phones more. I think a lot of the content on there is very inappropriate, and it's just something I really don't feel like should be messed with. I know a lot of kids are. It's really popular right now, but I really highly disagree with it, and I would not let my kids have TikTok. As for worrying about whether or not they need social media or whatever to for their career later on down the road, I have to say to that is, if you're my age, even around my age, you didn't grow up with social media, cell phones, all this stuff. I mean, I remember when the internet came out, like it was a big deal, and we're pretty much all doing just fine. You definitely learn how to use things as it becomes necessary. So whatever they need to learn how to use when they are grown, if they don't know how to use it by then, I know they'll figure it out. I definitely don't think giving them that access now is worth the risk, just for the sake of they may need that later on when they are going to college. Elizabeth Caitlin says, my son tries to sneak media into bed once he knows I'm sleeping, and I'm wondering how to stop him if you have any advice. Yes, put a password on your phone, something he's not going to guess. And even though it's a little bit more annoying for you that every time you go to get in your phone, you have to enter in a password, that will stop it 100% if he cannot get your phone because of the password. Jamie Wilson asks, how do you do quiet time without electronics? Well, I mentioned this earlier about like special things they can do that is only during that quiet time. So special books or games or toys or something they can do. Sometimes we would just do quiet time in their room and they could really do whatever they wanted, as long as it was, quiet. So they had toys in there and all their stuffed animals, and sometimes they would read a book, sometimes they'd fall asleep. It really just depended, but it was just a matter of making that a habit for them, and that's an expectation that, you need to get this and this done. They have these options of what they can do to keep themselves busy, and it really is good to let kids get bored. Like I mentioned earlier, it's not good to constantly be entertaining your kids for them. They really need to be able to get bored so they can use their minds and be creative. Otherwise, they're going to grow up thinking they constantly have to be entertained by something or someone, and that really is not a healthy habit to set up in them. Cozy Cove asks, do you only allow certain apps? Do you close Safari or let them roam? Do you make them put their phone outside the room to charge? Do you read texts from their friends? And at what age should they start paying for their monthly cell phone? Like I mentioned earlier, the only app my daughter has, besides her Instagram page that's run by me, is the art app that she has, and I keep pretty close tabs on that. She has to ask permission before using her phone, and it does not charge in her room. If I have not given her permission to use her phone, and if she's not away from me, then her phone stays in my room. She also knows that I am subject to read her texts whenever I want, so it is kind of out there in the open that anything that is sent or received, I can and I can read whenever I want. And if she doesn't like that, then she doesn't have to have a phone. I mean, we've already said that I'm going to be reading them periodically. She doesn't know when, but if she doesn't like that, then don't text people. That's kind of the solution to that. And then as far as when they would pay for their own phone, I really don't tend to have either of my girls pay for their own phone until they get a job. Even then, maybe half. I don't really know. I haven't gotten to that point yet, but I don't mind paying for it as long as my rules are being respected and it's not being misused or broken or lost. If those things start happening, then definitely it's going to be like, you don't need a smartphone that's expensive to replace. You're going to get this cheap, $20 flip phone from Kroger because you are not responsible enough to, number one, follow the rules, not break your phone, not lose your phone, those types of things. That hasn't happened yet, thankfully. But if it did, that would definitely be a time when I would either get them a really cheap phone and or have them start paying for some of the phone or all of the phone on their own. G Flores 72 asks, what would you consider the right amount of time for technology? If you mean technology as in just cell phones, as little as possible. There are so many studies that have shown that, number one, cell phones they have a high amount of radiation, which is bad for you. The combination of the overstimulation and the light is actually bad for your eyes and actually chemically affects a child's brain. And they can also be addictive. So as little cell phone time as possible, in my opinion, is the way to go. If you want like a number as far as like all screens, so TVs and games and tablets and laptops and all that stuff, I know a lot of pediatricians say no more than 2 hours a day. I think depending on what they're doing, even that's too much. If it's gaming or something unnecessary, I definitely think that's too much. If they're doing schoolwork on the computer or something, obviously sometimes you kind of have to do that, but I think it really depends on what they're doing. But also, the lights from screens and the overstimulation affects people differently. So you may be on your phone right up until bedtime and it not affect your sleep. Someone else might be on their phone or watching a screen right up until bedtime and it keeps them too overstimulated and they can't sleep. So it really affects everybody differently. But pretty much I've never seen a study that ever says it's not hurtful. Every study I've ever seen has said it can affect people in various ways. None of the ways were positive ways. They're all negative ways. So I feel like it just is really important to limit that as much as possible. You just have to decide, what's too much for your children, and you have to decide based on how they're able to handle all of that technology and screen time and stimulation. If you're having a lot of sleep issues, behavioral issues, confidence issues, depression, some of those things may be caused by being on the screens too much and or what they're seeing when they're online or on their phone. Sierra Smile 234 says, will you ever get your young daughter an iPad or a tablet? I'm going to say no. I don't really ever see her needing one or wanting one, but even if she did, I wouldn't. I just think it's giving her something that I'm not going to let her be on that much anyway, so it kind of seems like it's a waste. Lopez Torres Linda says, what are the best strategies for different ages? Again, I would not give a phone to a child who does not need one for safety reasons. If they did have one, I would definitely make sure that you have lots of rules, lots of safety precautions like the Trend Micro home network security device or their apps, but I would not give a child access to social media, unlimited access to YouTube. And also I think screen time is a privilege. So if they are getting bad grades in school or they're getting in trouble or they're not getting their chores done, they're disobeying, they're being disrespectful, as soon as those things are happening, then the first thing to go is any screen time, because unless it's for school, no screen time is really necessary. It's definitely a earned privilege. If they start having issues where they're not doing what you want them to do, definitely I would say cut out the screen time. So those are all your guys' questions. I really hope that they were helpful. I know I might come off as just a big jerk. I don't mean to. I don't want to sound like I'm doing this stuff to be mean or I'm on some kind of big power trip. I really am doing these things for my kids because I love them. And I'm trying to protect them, and I'm trying to give them a chance to grow up in a world where they don't have to be online. They don't have to be on social media. They don't have to have what everybody else has. And they're not addicted to their phones. I don't want my kids to be cell phone zombies, which is what I feel like is happening to a lot of kids and just as many adults. And I really want them to have a chance to have a normal childhood and not have all of these external things that come from having too much technology and cell phones. Radiation, the damage to your eyes, the issues with self-esteem and confidence, and all the stuff that comes along with social media, whether we want to admit it or not, it definitely happens. It happens to the best of us. How do you think it's going to affect a child or a teenager who's probably even less sure of themselves than a lot of adults are? So I just feel like it is so not worth the risk. That's why I tell the girls, like, you don't have to have these things. We all grew up just fine without social media and without a cell phone. You had to take a quarter with you everywhere so you could find a payphone. Like, we didn't have these issues. We didn't have these conveniences that, and we turned out just fine. And even though they're great, I think they need to be definitely kept in moderation. You need to be doing as much as you can to protect your kids with things like the Trend Micro Home Network Security Device and all of their apps. I just feel like it's definitely a balance, and you have to really be on your game to protect your kids, because there are real threats out there to them, looking for them, and just, it's not worth the risk. So definitely check out Trend Micro. I do have them linked for you in the description box. I will also link my previous kind of technology cell phone video that I did. I am very adamant about this, as you can tell. It's a big deal for me. It's one of my biggest pet peeves about overuse of cell phones and technology, and how it is really ruining our children and ruining families, and you have to be really careful with it. So I hope you like this video. If it was helpful, make sure you give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe if you're not already. And if you have somebody in your life that has children that either have cell phones or want them, definitely share this video with them. I'm sure they would like to know that there are things out there for them like Trend Micro that are going to help you kind of keep tabs on what your kids are doing online and on their gaming systems. So definitely share this video with them. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.